Hello, everyone. Kino here, and I am super excited to be joined for the first time on this channel by a real life actor and one who played on a show that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, The Sopranos. So thank you so much to J. Alan Christianson for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kino.
Yeah, awesome. And now, for those who don't know, Jay played a role on The Sopranos in the season 3 episode, Mr. Ruggerio's Neighborhood. It was the season 3 premiere. And you played the character, I believe his name was Agent Jongsma.
It's actually pronounced Jongsma.
Jongsma, gotcha.
Yep, it's Norwegian in heritage, like myself.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave you that level of like detail on your character for just being this one episode role?
You know, that's a great question, and the answer is no. And I'll tell you how I found out about it. It was 10 years later.
Yeah.
No, it was more like 12 years later. I was living in Los Angeles, and I was with some friends, and we were having lunch at the Chateau Marmont. And this gentleman and wife kept looking over at me, and I kept looking over at them because I knew that I knew them, but I didn't know how or where, and I couldn't place it. And I was telling my friends, I know this guy. I know him. At the end of his dinner, lunch, he came over to me and he goes, my wife and I are just racking our brains because we both recognize you. And I said, I was saying the same thing to my friends. And he goes, David Chase. And I went, oh, fuck. And I was like, oh, wow. Yes, of course. Thank you. I mean, the only time I saw him was when he cast me for my callback.
Yeah.
And then I said, I went by Jay Christianson, and Jay Allen is my full name. And I said, I'm Jay Christianson. I played Agent Jongsma on season 3. Oh my God. And his wife was just like totally thrilled. And you know, she said something about that's the most expression he usually has or something like that. And he was incredibly engaging and really present, and his wife was just adorable. But I then asked him, how did he come up with the name Jongsma? And he said, well, where I grew up, my neighbor was Jongsma, and they were a Norwegian family, if I remember correctly the story. And so that's why I found out. It was, 12 years after I had filmed it.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
And that's a great story.
Yeah, that's so funny, too, that you think that like, oh, the creator of the show, he knows every single detail about what's going on. But obviously, it's a whole operation where, you got, casting directors and the director of the actual episode itself and, all sorts of support staff that help make this, incredible picture happen.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a masterpiece. And I'm curious, what were the kind of events that led you to getting onto the show?
So I at the time I was 39 years old. So I started acting later. I mean, I was probably 35 when I started to pursue it. I went to New York for that particular reason. At the time I thought, how do I get to New York? And I thought, well, I need a job, but I need something flexible. And I got a job as a flight attendant for an airline based in New York. And I thought, this is perfect. And so I got hired for this, major airline. And I flew to Tokyo 3 times a month. And it gave me all of this time off to pursue my career. And then since I had so much time off and I was a little trepidatious about what to do. I mean, I grew up on a farm in Minnesota, but I just knew that this was something I was supposed to do. It was part of my destiny plan. And I also taught school at PS 151 in New York in Spanish Harlem. And I read a book called The Artist's Way. And it's kind of a catchphrase for a lot of actors all around the world. An amazing book by Julia Cameron. And that aided me in the courage to pursue something I knew that I had to do. I made it this far, right? I was in New York. And so I got my equity card doing theater. And then through that, I found a manager. And it was I think it was my second audition was for The Sopranos. Now, I didn't have HBO at the time. And I knew that it was a very, very popular show because all I had to do was just go past the Post or, the Daily News in New York and everything was Sopranos on the front. all I knew about it was that it was popular. I just had this weird, contrived, detailed scenario in my brain about what it was. And I thought it was about a singing family, like the Von Trapps.
Yeah.
And they were involved in the mafia. And that's what I thought about the show. So I went into it thinking that that's what it was. It was really before the internet. I didn't have HBO. And so I knew he was an FBI agent. And I knew it was cast by, it was Walken Jaffe casting. And I met with a gal by the name of Meredith Tucker. And she first saw me, and then it was Sheila Jaffe. And it was Walken. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, and then on the callback, I popped into a room at Silver Cup Studios in New York, where they filmed Sex and the City, The Wire, all of those shows.
Yeah.
And then I came into this, room, and it was this enormous airport hangar, and there was couches, and there was like 9 people. The director, Alan Coulter, was there, Timothy Van Patten, who also directed in that episode. David Chase was there, and then a bunch of producers. But I just ignored that and just, read opposite, I believe it was Sheila Jaffe.
Wow. And what was what were you reading? What lines were you reading for the audition?
Well, I interestingly enough had 6 pages.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I ended up with 2 lines. And I had to go back and look at what they were. What about the home? It was my idea to bug the Soprano house.
Yeah.
And then when I'm surveilling Carmela,
yeah.
And was it Carmela? Drea Matea, they were playing tennis.
Yeah, the tennis. Yeah, both of them together. Yeah.
Yes, that was it. Right. And then I said the words Andrea Lacerba. But there was this whole other dynamic that was involved about detail. And I had said something like, that's the same agency that Hillary Clinton uses for security and all of these things. But then when it came down to it, you never know what's going to be on the cutting room floor. But I was thrilled because it was 2 weeks, and I filmed, I believe it was 4 days a week for 2 weeks.
Wow, that's incredible. And then in those scenes that you're in, we have the one at the FBI headquarters where they're planning the operation. In that scene, you're with some, very legendary stars on The Sopranos. You got like Matt Servito, who played Agent Harris,
Yes.
and Frank Pellegrino, who played the chief, Frank Cubitoso. What was it like, working with them in that, environment there?
Well, they were incredibly, friendly and relaxed and jokey. And because I had never seen an episode of the show, I didn't know their status. I just thought they were a bunch of FBI agents. And, I really didn't think too much about it. They were terrific. Matt was actually a neighbor of mine in New York. We lived on the same street.
Yeah.
And then I had run into him after filming, and we had both done guest stars on Law and Order.
Yeah.
And he was just about to get married, I remember, and he was going to Hawaii. And I would see him on the street and, just kind of yuck it up with him. Super nice guy. Frank was terrific. I had found out later that he owned the famous Rayo's restaurant, which is the hardest place to get in.
I've heard.
That was like, and I didn't know that. And we had chatted and had a really terrific talk here and there. And he said, you'll have to come up to the restaurant. And I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't ask him. And then I found out later that he was inviting you to Rayo's.
Oh, wow.
You idiot. You should have
passed up a fantastic opportunity.
Yes, I did. Yeah. So I think, like the ignorance is bliss. And now I'm not too intimidated by anybody that I see. No. And I think that really helped. The only time I met James Gandolfini, because I had a scene with he and another guy on the show, and I forget his name. His real name was Federico, I think, but he played Furio. Furio, that's it. Yes. Yeah. And so I met, James, and he was, for some reason, I thought he was going to be short and stocky like a bull, but he was he was tall and big. and broad, and he had these enormous hands, and he shook my hands, and he said, "How you balls?" And that's what I guess he said to everybody. That was kind of new on the set.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
can't remember what I said. Yeah, he was terrific.
Yeah, I've heard that, just fantastic to work with, even, for just these one-off parts.
Yeah.
No, and that was, what was it like for you in terms of, when you're doing a small role like this, how do you kind of prepare for that as an actor? Are you like giving yourself a backstory of this character and how he became an FBI agent, or are you just kind of playing off, what the other people are doing?
Yeah, that's a good one. So for this particular role, I gave myself this backstory of being relatively new as an agent and serious, where maybe the other ones would kind of yuck it up. Even though I was 39, I looked quite a bit younger, right? And I looked like the junior agent, and they had actually called and said, he's a junior agent. And this is before IMDb, really, and before it said I was born in 1961.
Yeah.
But I was used to that, so that didn't surprise me. And I went into it as I'm the serious guy. Yeah. And, I'd seen enough shows on television, Law and Order and such, how to play the detective. Yeah. So I always felt, for my particular character, that I was always thinking. And even though they were talking, I was listening. I was finding other little avenues to, break this case. And one of them, the line that was actually in the show that I said was, what about the home, was something I felt that I had already been thinking about, and was almost had a sense of trepidation before I said it.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to say? Are they going to laugh me out? And so that's why I said it with just a little bit of like, I'm just kind of throwing this out there. I don't really know, but.
Do you think that mirrors also your experience as like an actor? Because, you're coming into that role as like a relatively junior actor with some, you haven't seen the show, but know it's a big name. So it's kind of like you're almost playing yourself, but in like a different field.
Very insightful. I never even thought of that, but you're absolutely right, Kino. That was a part of the thought process of my subconscious. I did feel, because I knew it was a big show, even though I didn't know what it was about. All of a sudden I found myself here, and that's actually how I got my SAG card, was doing The Sopranos.
Yeah.
So it was. And this is another interesting story. I hadn't thought about this for a while, but I was in the dressing room, and I was ready to come out for the first scene with all the guys, right?
Yeah.
So the handler comes and he gives me my papers and he goes, "What's your SAG number?" And I said, I'm not a member of SAG. And he almost turned white, and he shut the door and he left. And I thought, uh-oh. Oh. So he came back in 5 minutes and said, "Wow, we really all dodged a bullet," because the door was closed for non-union actors on the show.
Oh, wow.
But because I had already gone through hair and makeup and a table read, with everyone, we did table reads with David, and I think it was with Alan Coulter, and Timothy Van Patten was there. Everyone was there, but James Gandolfini at the table read. He couldn't make it for some reason, but everybody else was there, and it was just, that's the way it works sometimes. It was just all union actors. So I slipped through the cracks, and I got my SAG card anyway.
Well, that's an incredible amount of luck there, but also an incredible amount of luck to just, kind of cut your teeth, so to speak, on this critically acclaimed show, and that being the thing that kind of led to your, full entrance as an actor into the guild.
Right, exactly.
I wanted to circle back here. You mentioned you started this career late, 39. I think that's an incredible like inspiration to anyone who's like, you're told constantly like, you gotta start really early, or it's too late for you or whatever. But really, if you're passionate enough about it, you can follow your dream no matter what stage of life you're at. What was the thing that kind of pushed you to finally go for this at that age?
So I got very depressed. So when you know what you are to do in life, and fear takes hold, it plays, you know, a myriad of tricks on the mind. And I just got very low. And I remember thinking, you know, all those little fears that were creeping in got louder and louder. You're way too old to start. Who do you think you are? You don't know anyone in this business. You're just a simple farm boy from Minnesota. You know, like your mind just goes, you know, whack-a-mole, right? And I believe in this element of synchronicity. And I had gotten so low, I just remember asking, you know, Spirit, I was just like, I really need some help. And within, it was probably 4 or 5 days, 2 people I knew and one stranger at like a Barnes and Noble or something had said, have you ever heard of the book, The Artist's Way? And so at that point in my life, I was 36 and I started reading it, and Julia Cameron, the author, addressed all of the fears that I was not only experiencing, but causing depression in terms of like, you know, maybe getting medication, which I did not end up doing. But, you know, the soul knows. I mean, I knew when I was a child that I had this gift, and it just took me a long time but, you know, time is just an illusion. I mean, it was right on time. I had to go through what I was going through, but she addressed things like, stop telling yourself it's too old. You know, the ego is really a censor. It's its job to keep you down. Yeah. And then she had many quotes from a lot of people that were actually older, that started out older, and whether it was dance or whether it was music or what have you. And she always kept insisting that everybody was a creative. And those little things that you thought about as a child were there for a reason. So I took that and I ran with it, and I became incredibly empowered in a short amount of time. And the synchronicity just kind of, you know, started working in tandem with myself as one in spirit. And I got my equity card through an interesting venue of circumstances, which by all accounts was like the hardest thing to get at the time, would be an equity card. And I got that doing A.R. Gurney's The Dining Room at a theater in New Jersey, an equity theater in New Jersey. And then through that, a manager and all of that. And Pamela Thompson at the time, she was my manager. And I actually met her through a pilot at Northwest Airlines where I flew, and said, you know, hey, Jay, you're an actor. You should meet this lady, blah, blah, blah. She's got an office in Midtown. And then, you know, before you know it, I met her. We hit it off. And then one of my second auditions was The Sopranos. First was As the World Turns, and I booked it. It was, I played like a Brooklyn taxi driver that was, you know, driving around this gal, and, you know, that kind of a thing. And then after that was The Sopranos. And then I did a guest star on Law and Order Special Victims Unit as a rapist. And then I moved to LA.
And yeah, I wanted to bring that up too. And again, I just want to say that I think that story is very inspirational, and that I encourage anyone who's like, you know, wanting to do something creative, whether it's like something like YouTube like this, whether it's acting, whether it's dance, whatever, it's never too late to pursue your dreams. And you can always, you know, start that process, and you never know where it's going to take you. I'm sure just like you didn't.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And I want to talk about the Law and Order, because I'm a big fan of Law and Order, the SUV, as Christopher puts it on the show.
Yeah, right.
But I saw on IMDb that you had did an episode, so I went back and rewatched that episode. I think it's the season 2 episode, Victims, which is kind of a twist on the normal formula of the show, in that the rapists and pedophiles of the episode are kind of the victim. In this case, they're being targeted by a serial killer. Right. And I wanted to, I mean, you had a scene, you know, you play a bad guy, and I think you worked opposite Ice-T and Detective Munch. I'm blanking on the name right now, but Richard Belzer, yeah, of course, in his famous iconic role. But what was that like for you to play? I know it's a guest starring, a smaller role. What was it like for you to play someone like so horrible like that? And I know you continue that trend with another one of your roles as a serial killer in a movie. But what is that process like for you, playing someone like a disgusting human being like that?
Yeah, I get that every once in a while, quite a bit, because the roles that I do tend to get are roles that are very off kilter and very different from like my persona. Like right now, everyone's like, "Oh, a nice guy,"
Yeah.
more musical theater than anything else.
Yeah.
And I relish the roles of the dark, the shadow side. And I haven't told this story for a while, but it's a damn good one. My agent called and said, "I have a role for you for Law and Order." Totally true story. Because I had just played Agent Jongsma, the agent gave me the script, and on the top it said Detective Munch. Well, I had never seen Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I think it was the second year out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm reading the lines for Detective Munch, and I go in, and it was another Tucker, Julie Tucker. She was casting. And I came in with a suit and tie, just like Agent Jongsma. And she looked at me and my headshot, and she said, "Jay?" And I said, "Yes, yes, I'm here."
Yeah.
And she said, what are you reading for?" And I said, "Detective Munch." She goes, "That's Richard Belzer's job. That's fantastic." She said, "You're Trent Wills." And I went, "Oh, thank God." And I said, "Give me 5 minutes."
Yeah.
And it was 3 pages. I went out. I took my suit coat off. I took my vest. I had a t-shirt on underneath. Thank God. I took the bottom of my shoe. I dirtied it up. I saw some pump soap. I put it in my eye to make myself look like a drug addict.
Yeah.
And then I went in and slayed it. And then I had the call back the next day with the head of law and order and all those people. And then they told me that day I booked it.
That's awesome.
I was thrilled.
Yeah.
I was so bored with this Detective Munch thing. Blah, 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 blah. And I remember reading, thinking, God, I would like to play this Trent Wills rapist. It would be fun. And so I already knew the lines.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was just, dirty myself up and put a little, soap in my eye and kill it.
There's a level of funniness there that you thought you were going to play Munch because he's this already existing character from Homicide: Life on the Street, and he transferred over to Law and Order. So funny that you kind of went in thinking like, I'm going to play this character. But no, that was incredible that you're able to like turn on a dime like that. And I imagine there's something like deeply interesting about playing someone so different from yourself. It's like kind of what an actor, at least a character actor, dreams of doing, is like getting into the shoes of someone completely different than you.
That is precisely it, Kino. And there's nothing more thrilling than playing a character that's unlike yourself. And even though I was brand new to the biz, just my second role as a detective, it bored me. Honest to God, I was like, I'm not meant to play these type of characters.
Yeah.
And I knew that very early on. And when she said you're playing Trent Wills, I just, both hands in the air, I said, thank God, give me 5 minutes. Yeah. And she laughed like, is he really going to do it? And I went in, changed, came back before the other, Trent Wills came out and went in, and she immediately said, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
She knew. Yeah,
she knew right there. It landed perfectly.
She knew. Yep.
And what was it like to be a part of Law and Order, this incredibly long running established series of Dick Wolf's just incredible, all his different series of the different Law and Orders. But what was it like to be a part of that, but also to specifically to interact with Ice-T and Richard Belzer, who again were very iconic in that role?
Yes, now those two, I knew who they were. Just because of their prior work. And I mean, I was thrilled because I knew that Law and Order was already iconic. And then this new SVU series was probably going to last for quite a few years. Right. And so when I was filming with Richard, here's a great story. So what ended up being shown in this particular episode, I actually had to come back. And there's that part where I'm cracking open the beer and I'm drinking. And like, been a long time, getting kind of anxious. They threw that in at the end because there was a scuffle between myself and Ice-T, where he pushes me against the refrigerator. And I said, I told him, I said, we really got along, and Richard was amazing. We were like totally, he's telling me old stories from the rap. He was just delightful. And I told him, I said, just give it to me. Just like really just push me right there on the refrigerator. And he did. I hit my head and it cracked and it bled.
Ooh. Oh no.
I didn't even care. I was
Yeah.
just like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's not that he pushed me hard. It was that I gave it that extra bump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just for drama's sake, And I was told when I came back to do another part of the scene, they cut that because it looked like, brutality.
Yeah.
And so they ended up, having to cut it, even though it would have been magic on screen.
It would have been great, and it fit in with the theme of that episode because I just watched it the other night. It was all about this like disconnect where it's like, wait, we're police, but we're protecting rapists who just happen to be the victim of this serial killer. Right. So it would have fit in great. But again, I had a question, and I don't know if you maybe remember this, but I've always been curious. Like you said, you drink a beer in that scene. When actors are doing that, like on set, what are you actually drinking? Because I assume it's not actually alcohol.
Yeah, that one was a can that looked like a beer can, but it was actually just a seltzer water.
Oh, gotcha.
So it wasn't even flavored, if I remember correctly.
Gotcha. No, I know it's a silly little thing to ask about, but I was just always curious, like, they often you drink it in a scene or whatever, and I'm like, well, what are they actually drinking there?
Yeah, that's and in the scene that was cut to, they were debating whether I should smoke or not, right?
Yeah.
And the cigarettes are actually chamomile.
Oh.
So they have these special cigarettes that are herbal, but the herb is actually chamomile. So you're smoking these chamomile cigarettes. Yeah. And then they decided, no, we won't have them smoking. We'll just have the ashtray dirtied, and let's just concentrate on that.
Yeah. I got you. Are you actually breathing that into your lungs when you're smoking a fake cigarette in that scene?
Yes, I mean, I was a smoker, so to me that was easy. I quit smoking, but when I do have a chamomile, when I do have to smoke, like I did when I did the film Garrow, I do inhale it because it's what you do.
You got to make it believable. No, this is all like the background stuff I was really curious about, and I was so excited to talk to a real actor because
that's so cool.
Yeah, most of the people I interact with are people like me, content creators, and we have a fascination with this kind of stuff, but no real experience like interacting with people actually in the industry. Do
you want to be an actor? Are you a frustrated actor, Kino?
I act in these videos. Let's just say that.
Well, I think you're a natural.
Thank you. That is really everything I had to ask you about in terms of like the Sopranos and stuff like that. Can I ask you maybe just as a final thing, what can we expect to see from you, in the future in terms of your career? Like what are you working on? What do you want to do? Thank you. That's so nice. Well, right now, it's like the older I get, the more I work. Right now I'm doing the series that is not out yet on Showtime called American Gigolo. It's a Jerry Bruckheimer produced show based on the 1980 film with Richard Gere and Lauren Hutton. Yeah. And Jonathan Bernthal is the American Gigolo. Yep. Rosie O'Donnell takes over the detective Hector's place, and Gretchen Mall is the Lauren Hutton part. Yeah. And Wayne Brady is also in it. And I can say this, I signed an NDA, but those elements are on IMDb and press releases. I did the pilot, and they've written me in 2 more episodes, which is very exciting. Yeah. So I just finished episode 2, and then I'm doing another episode in a bit. But that's really, and it's a great, interesting part. And that's all I can say. Awesome. Well, I mean, maybe not specifically, but I was curious. John Bernthal, who plays in The Many Saints, and obviously, Sopranos viewers are going to be familiar with him. Just in general, like, what's it like working with him? My scenes have all been with
not with him, but with somebody else. But both times I was filming, he was in hair and makeup when I was. Yeah. And delightful guy, super engaging, very present. Yeah. And yeah, he's aces. You can just tell.
Yeah. No, that's awesome to hear.
When he's excited to see me as I'm as excited to see him, you know, it's nice synergy. He's a good guy.
That's always great when the actor, again, is someone like that who just makes it so welcoming for, you know, guest stars and you know, supporting cast to feel like part of the family of the show.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited.
Donald too. Yeah, super lovely guy.
Yeah.
Very talented.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm super excited to see that when it comes out. You guys could check it out when it does. And I'm sure we're going to see Jay in many more things in the future as well. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with me. I think this conversation is going to help a lot of people, if not just to learn more about the industry, but to also maybe follow their dreams too.
Beautiful. That's beautifully stated. And I love that. That is part of what I would love to do and give. And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Awesome. So we will talk to you guys later and check out more videos soon.